got to talk about Bill Maher today. And he had Adam Schiff on his show. Yeah, pencil neck Adam Shifty Schiff, the guy who should be in prison right now. But we'll save that conversation for another day, all right? But he had Adam Schiff on, and Adam Schiff was actually talking about something that was quite interesting that also leads to a bigger and broader conversation about the Democrat Party, and we'll get into that a little later on in the video. But let's hop into this conversation between Bill Maher and Adam Shifty Schiff. Let's dive in.
If film and TV productions continue to move out of California due to tax incentives in other states, what might the future look for Los Angeles? Is there a risk of it becoming the next Detroit? Well, there's no need to shit on Detroit in the question. Detroit's a fine city. Detroit.
Well, I mean, the central part of that question is that California, I'm sorry to say this, a beautiful state, has become Exhibit A in progressive misgovernance. And if you're going to tax industries straight out of the country, if you're going to continue to lose, 100,000, 200,000 people every year who have to leave here because it's unaffordable, because housing is unaffordable, you're going to create an example of what Americans don't want from the left. So Democrats, and my colleague Ezra Klein is doing this, are taking a good hard look at California and saying, we're not that. We need to be a party that's from some other model.
Well, I don't disagree that we've got to do a lot to improve governance in California, but I don't agree with the diagnosis of why the film industry is leaving. They're leaving because they're getting richer incentives in other states and in other countries, and we haven't kept pace with that. So if you want to film in the United Kingdom, you're going to get a tremendous tax break, and our motion picture industry has left the country. If you want to film in New York or Georgia, there are generous tax incentives. If we want to keep the industry here, we're going to have to compete with tax incentives. California has started to do that. But on a federal level, I think the United States is also going to have to offer incentives to keep this industry here and to compete around the world. It didn't used to be necessary, but they're successfully wooing away this prize economic and cultural driver of the United States. So I have a deep personal interest, both because I represent this area for a long time in the House, and I love this industry. I love going out to the movies. I love watching great TV like your program. But, but I think it's more that we're being outbid.
But why should it just be for Hollywood? It should be for normal people. It should be for any kind of entrepreneur, not just celebrities whose pictures and whose faces you know. I mean, that's the problem. It should just simply be a favored industry. Oh, we can't lose our movie stars. Every year, California loses people because they are being driven away by a high-tax, high regulation state where public services don't reach the standards that they should. That should be a signal that we shouldn't have one favored industry or another. We should have a favored state. California should be competitive.
Well,
a great argument for old school republicanism, by the way.
And I certainly concur. We need to be competing for business with the rest of the country, and we need to not be complacent about whether people are going to locate here because of a business climate. We certainly can't expect that. But I think what's driving, and the question was about the film industry, which is why I made my answer about the film industry. But I think a lot of what is driving people out of California is the cost of living is too high.
yeah.
And most particularly, the cost of housing is too high. People can't afford to live here, which is why I think in so many central ways, housing is really key. More housing is key to the affordability problem in California. More housing is key to the homeless problem in California. But you're absolutely right, creating a more welcoming business environment, a more regulatory-friendly environment, making sure that the ethos is how do we help you get this done, not how do we put more obstacles in the way. I haven't forgotten about your roof. All of that is important to keeping...
And my pot store.
And what?
And the pot store, the Woods that I own with Woody Harrelson. It's just the biggest problem we had was the government of California.
I imagine your producers are saying, oh, God, I can't believe Schiff brought up his roof.
Yeah, I mean, we love it here. We want to live here. The West Coast has the sunshine and the girls all get so tanned. I don't know how I can, but we just gotta make it friendlier. All right.
And that is the problem with the Democrat Party. Like, you just heard Adam Schiff say, yeah, we should get rid of a lot of this nonsense and this BS, the taxes and a lot of the regulations and everything else. We've also heard Gavin Newsom say the exact same thing, and nothing changed. Nothing changed. And you know why nothing changed? Because they can't change it. Because their base pushes for a lot of this wokeness. A lot of this woke stuff, the climate change, right? How you gonna get the money? You gotta tax the crap out of people. Now you're taking dollars out of people's pockets. And you can't just tax the rich. The rich know how to maneuver their money or just leave the country in general, right? They have the means to do so. So when they talk about taxing the rich, that's never gonna happen. We know that. Like, who are you fooling? The only people they are fooling are their constituents who believe by some magic chance they're gonna be taxing the rich. And one famous situation I think I posted this as a YouTube short last week, I believe, when Uncle Trump and Hillary were debating on the stage, and she was talking about taxes or him not paying taxes or whatever, and he was like, I use the same tax code that your donors all use, and you won't change the tax code because the people that donate to you use the same tax loopholes that I use. And she had nothing to say about it. And it's the truth. It's the truth. Democrats are complete hypocrites. But that also leads to a bigger and broader conversation because, of course, AOC and Bernie Sanders are basically on a campaign run right now. They're campaigning around the country right now. And they're campaigning on far leftist ideas, right? Socialism, basically. And that is never going to work. It's never going to work. You look at a place like California, and they are consistently losing population. You look at a place like New York, losing population. Illinois, same situation. These big blue states are losing population to the point where, in the census, it's predicted that come 2030, I believe it was, a Republican will no longer have to win a Pennsylvania, a Michigan, in Ohio, right, or Wisconsin. Republicans won't have to win in any of those states because of the way the electoral college is going to be flipped, because people are leaving California, New York, Illinois, these deep blue states, and going to red states. All you got to win is the basic states that we've already been winning. So Democrats are going to be cooked. And that is why AOC, I cheer on.
AOC has done nothing meaningful in Congress. She's done it all on social media. And she's one of your leading names in who's going to be president. Do you not get this concept of 80-20? She's an 80-20 loser all day long. Why? She is clearly catering to a minority. She's her own version of MAGA. She's looking for an outraged enclave. She's not about the majority. She's not about consensus. She's not about solutions. She wants government to give you everything. She's a socialist in a capitalist society. What are you thinking?
She claims to be socialist for everyone else, but in reality, she's not. Okay, and Kevin O'Leary actually laid that out pretty perfectly in this clip right here. Wait, no, not that clip. This one.
Meghan McCain says discount her at your peril, but she is a populist. She is like, this is about class politics, working class people, some of the same people Donald Trump appeals to. Does that worry you? As a
AOC, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I buy her T-shirts for $39.95, tax the rich. They're very popular in Miami Beach. I wear them, and I sign them, and I give them to people. She has an 82% margin on that, proving that inside of every socialist is a capitalist trying to get out. But however, I would say this about her. You know, the ambassador of America, the CEO, the president, they have to embody.
She's not really a socialist, right? Not really a socialist at all, but those are the ideas that she's running on and she's trying to implement for everybody else. And that's not going to work. We see the example of that basically in California. How well is that working? I mean, literally, Adam Schiff on Bill Maher's show talks about how he was in, I I want to say it was San Francisco, and he left his luggage in his car and he was robbed. Like, why is that a thing? Why is that acceptable? Why do people in California just accept that you can't leave your luggage in your car because you'll be robbed? Like, that's just like a well-known thing. Hey, you don't leave your luggage in your car because you'll be robbed. Why should I be worried about leaving my luggage in my car? It's my car. Why is it just widespread that people are just breaking into cars and taking people's luggage? That's just crazy to me. It's crazy. And people are voting with their feet in these states and leaving. So as far as a challenge from AOC, I don't see it actually playing out. Now, in the Democrat Party, I see it working pretty well in the primary. She's already beating out Chuck Schumer. If there were to be an election between her and Chuck Schumer today, AOC would unseat Chuck Schumer, an established Democrat, a leader in the Democrat Party. She would unseat Chuck Schumer. Now, do I think she's gunning for that? Probably not. I don't see her campaigning this hard just for that. I see her campaigning this hard to run for president. And unfortunately for Democrats, I think she's actually going to come out on top for the Democrat Party, right? I think she is going to come out on top. But fortunately for us, those ideas aren't popular amongst the masses, right? Of course, conservatives and Republicans, we ain't voting for that anyway. But the independents definitely ain't voting for that. So that's most definitely a loss, a huge loss for the Democrat Party. But this is the monster that they made. This is the monster they made. And like I said, I don't believe that it will change until after 2028. After 2028, that's when mainstream media and the Democrat Party will have a come to Jesus moment and move on back to the center, right? That's when they will change. And only then. Midterms ain't going to change them. There's going to be a few more people that are going to come out and say, yeah, we probably should move closer to the center. And you're seeing some folks already, like Gavin Newsom, who I believe is disingenuous because look how he's running California. Gretchen Whitmer, Bill Maher, I forgot. Oh, crap. Why can't I think of the other guy's name? There's several Democrats that are attempting to do it, but they've all been shunned. They've all been pushed out. Gavin Newsom used to be closer to the top of the list in terms of who Democrats wanted to be their party leader or saw as their party leader. Now he's dropped down quite a bit since he's been coming out and making those more centrist kind of statements, right? So that's not where the Democrat Party is right now. And even after 28, when they do make that shift, that party's going to have to split because there's going to be far leftists who aren't going to want to change. They're going to want to keep pushing the same types of socialist ideas that never work and nobody votes for. So the Democrat Party is going to have to split, which means they ain't going to have no votes, which means they still ain't going to win. Even after that, it's going to take quite a while, in my humble opinion. So as long as Uncle Trump exceeds on what he's attempting to do, and I believe that he will, based on how loud the Democrat Party is screaming right now and everything he tries to do, because you would assume that if he was doing a terrible job, they'd be quiet and let him flop, right? Because that guarantees them a win in the midterms. But the fact that they're continuing to scream tells me they know he's on to something and he's about to have a big break and win. So I think Republicans are about to have a historic run, and no, that's not me just saying that to smooze you up, right? I've explained why I believe that is, and you guys can let me know if you agree, but I do think that Republicans are about to have a historic run like never before. I think we may dominate for like the next 20 years or so. Okay, as long as we keep electing the right Republicans and we don't let like a rhino slip in there, I think we'll be good for like the next 20, maybe even a little bit longer. But let me know what you think. Peace and love. I'm out.